Hello, everyone. So, New York Comic Con is going on right now, and there's been a few panels that have dropped some interesting Transformers stuff. And today I'm going to be focusing on all the Earthspark reveals because the closer this show gets, the more little tidbits they're dropping. And every time I hear those tidbits, I get more and more interested in this show. So this reveal in particular has me like really intrigued. I'm gonna say right from the get go, this because we're getting closer to the show and because there's a lot going on here in this one. We are getting into what I would consider spoiler territory. So if you want to go in completely clean and you don't want anything spoiled whatsoever, any kind of twist or any kind of thing about the show, maybe avoid the video a little bit. I'm not going to go into like heavy spoilers, but there is a couple things that I go like, oh, hmm, okay. So just in case you want to avoid that, just feel free to just like hit the like button and leave. All right, I won't leave. I won't begrudge anyone for doing that. Also, hit the like button if you stay as well. All right, so that's the thing. So if you're leaving, hit the like button before you leave. If you're staying, hit the like button while you're here. That's how it works, right? All right, can we all do that for me? Thank you very much. All right, so first off, before we get into any of like the panel information, because like the creators of the show dropped a lot of little tidbits here that we're gonna go over before we go into like the new trailer that dropped, because there's a bunch more footage now for the show for our consumption. I am going to give a shout out to Ben Yee over on Twitter. He's at New York Comic Con. He did most of the legwork for this particular report. So he was live tweeting the panel. So like most of this information I'm pulling from him. And yeah, super cool of him to do. And like respect to Ben Yee, like the first name among Transformer reviewers, like the first guy to like make it a thing and like gain like popularity for doing it. So all the respect to Ben Yee. So you get to stare at this interesting screenshot with the dad's drip. And yes, that is all Bumblebee faces on his suit. He's a little obsessed. But I mean, we're going to go. You get to stare at that lovely image while I go on about a few things that were explained in the series. For starters, we know that the entire plot is basically takes place after the Great War has already been won. So we actually have a different dynamic already. They're focusing a lot more on the family dynamic itself. The core cast is mostly comprised of humans more than actual Transformers, and then everything else kind of happens like beside it. So like they really want the human family aspect and our two brand new Transformers to be the forefront. And you know what? That tells a different story in the Transformers brand. I feel like it's what they thought the '07 movie was going to be, but this one actually is going to feel a little bit more. They also explained that they took inspiration from the Iron Giant and E.T. So befriending aliens, life with a gigantic robot. All right, that's actually pretty appropriate. What's interesting to me is that the way they view this show is essentially what they called G1.5. So the footage they showed at the panel, they showed the first episode, by the way. So there's a recap for the entirety of episode 1. I won't go into big details about that, but I will go into things that are shown in the trailer that was released publicly. So the one thing I'll say about it is they actually do show flashbacks with the old 80s animation style. And like they recreate scenes from the original cartoon, like the intro like the intro bit with the Decepticons like charging toward the camera. They recreate that with Megatron, Soundwave, and Starscream. Uh, there's new scenes of like the G1 characters on Cybertron, and like Elita 1 is far more prominent. And so they're using G1 at least like year 1, maybe a little bit of year 2, as the basis for the storyline and the basis for like the lore of this particular Transformers universe. And then everything after that in modern times is the divergent line. So there's no Galvatron, presumably no Unicron, and we're going in a different direction. So there's a lot of homaging the past in episode 1. And like I've seen screenshots, Ben posted photos of like the animation, like it just looks spot on, like the 80s cartoon. It's kind of amazing. So I'm actually really excited. Like if they're going to be that referential and they're going to be that respectful to the past, I am really curious just how many Easter eggs are going to drop over the course of this series for people like me to obsess over and watch every single frame, and pick into like extremely minute details to kind of find where all the references go. Some story beats to follow. Number 1, Elita is officially second in command of the Autobots, which, if she's leading the female resistance on Cybertron, she really should be high up in the ranks, right? So good on her. So she helps coordinate with Ghost. Ghost is the faction that is in charge of basically maintaining good relations with the Transformers on Earth. So it's your Sector 7. It's your nest. It's our official, like, we worked the government in there somehow. Though it doesn't look like they're as, like, overbearing as some were, like Nest was in the live action movies. Seems a little bit more downplayed, but there's an element to that I will get to. Other little bits, the actors kind of went into like motivation, so we know a little bit more about how the portrayals are going to go. Elite 1, for instance, is she does love most of the humans. She's trying to make the planet fun. She has a sassy side to her. That's according to the voice actress. So that it's what they infer from the lines and direction they're given. So we'll see how accurate that is when we get to the end of it. We found out that the town this takes place in is called Witwicky. Okay, considering Spike actually makes an appearance in the flashback, I do want to know if the town was literally named after Spike, or if that's just like how they got the term Witwicky into the show. We also had a look at. We also had a breakdown of Mandroid as a character. Mandroid is going to be acting as the main villain, so a humanoid main villain. He's essentially the xenophobic, for lack of a better term, racist type, who views all of these giant aliens as threats and menaces to Earth. He views all the Transformers as evil and takes it upon himself to try and get rid of them. So he's twisted that way. And the part where he's like building like leftover Decepticon parts onto himself should have let you know he's just a little bit twisted. But I do think it's interesting that we're having a main human villain. So like even in series like Animated and Prime, where you had human villains, they were never a threat compared to Decepticons. Like, even Silas in Prime is not as scary as a Decepticon. He gets scary when he technically becomes a Decepticon. But before that, he's a much more minor threat by comparison. So it's going to be interesting to see how a primary human villain is going to act and remain threatening to a Transformer cast. Speaking of Decepticons, there is still a presence in the show for them. It's not long into episode 1 before we get Autobots versus Decepticons. And it's described as like there is like the war is over, but there is a faction of Decepticons who are not ready to move on. So I'm sure there's gonna be plenty of robot fights thanks to that. Let's see. We'll get to some of this else. We'll get to some of the other things once we get into some of the screenshots, because a few things I want to point out. And the last thing I'll mention is that we have two producers on the show, one of whom was a G1 kid, and the other who was a Beast Wars kid. So I'm hoping between the two, they have this nice dynamic that's, you know, fan-friendly to everybody. So with that out of the way, let's actually look at another screenshot. Let's look at something else for a change. So Twitch and Thrash are interesting in that, and we're getting more of like how these two are going to be portrayed. And it's just kind of recently dawning on me what they're going for here. So we're seeing not only like Transformers who identify Earth as their home, you know, they do not identify as Autobots. They identify as Terrans. They acknowledge, you know, they're a part of the overall family. You know, they are, you know, they don't even view themselves as like under Optimus's command. They are like they're under Dot's command. They're under the mom's command. But what's interesting about them, what I just realized about this, is that for the first time, we're going to see the infancy of a Transformer in a cartoon. You know, in Beast Wars, you know, they are freshly born from protoforms, but there's an implication that they were fully formed Transformers before and reverted to the protoform state for the long flight on the Axelon. So, but this, you know, and we've seen the story tackled a few times in comic books. IDW 2.0 did it as the jumping on point for their reboot. But this is going to be the first time we see it in animation. So, like, they're programmed with basic intelligence and function and all that. You know, they're basically start off at like a human's like early teenage years. But everything else after that does not come naturally. They have to learn their fighting ability. They have to learn, like, what it's like to face a Decepticon in a fight. So we're going to get a very different view of what a Transformer is like than we've had in the past, where they're all just kind of war machines. That has my interest. That tells a different story than we've seen for a long time. And considering we've been telling these stories for almost 4 decades, yes. That's a big deal when you can find a new avenue to go down. Let's take a look at some of the other designs. We've got Skywarp present here, and Skywarp is looking very thin and svelte compared to how they normally look. And if we look at this shot, we're going to kind of see why. So we've got feminine Seeker designs akin to the ones that we saw in Cyberverse, which is a little bit interesting. It's hard for me to tell if like this is the same Seeker in both shots. I think it is. I was trying to figure out if it was like Thundercracker and Skywarp, but I think it's just Skywarp and yellow one, because that's not Sunstorm. It's not one of the Rainmakers either. There's way too much black involved here. So it looks like we're actually looking at a brand new Seeker in this bright yellow and black one. I actually wouldn't be surprised if both of these are actually new Seekers, you know, rather than like gender swapped Skywarp or anything like that, like we had in Cyberverse. But yeah, there's no sign of Starscream in this one, by the way. So we're still wondering like where some of our more prominent Decepticons will fall. But yeah, it's cool to see they're doing a little bit different with Seekers. We're doing a little bit different with Seekers. 2 more Decepticons. Good shots of Swindle and who everyone was calling Snowcat because of a similar head design. But I don't think it is. I don't think it is, because the credits mention Hardtop. And Hardtop actually is, you know, is a Decepticon. It's an orange visor Decepticon with teal and purple main colors. So I think we're looking at Hardtop here, and congratulations for an American-made Cybertron toy that never appeared in any fiction before. He's got a spot in a new cartoon. Congratulations. Spoiler alert, he might not last very long, or at least part of him might not, because we'll take a look at Mandroid, and he's wearing one of Hardtop's arms. So the producers mention that the longer the season goes on, the more Mandroid is going to kind of fall into this pattern and like into this kind of psychoses of his. and go deeper into the Transformer world and the change that he goes through. He's not even going to realize because he's the one creating it. The implication, I feel like, is that he's going to become farther from being a human and closer to being a Transformer in order to stay competitive against the Autobots. That's my prediction here. So, like, at some point, I'm expecting to see this, like, Frankenstein, like, horror of a Transformer character that has no humanity left. That Mandroid has just become that which he hates, which is the downfall of a lot of villains. But in this case, it might make him an even bigger threat than he's going to be starting off. So, something to look out for. He's also got, apparently, he's the one in control of the Insecticons. So they might be an extension of those little, like, Mandroid, little walker, little crawly bots that we've been seeing in the trailers so far. So he hates all Transformers, but he's not above using them for his own goals. All right. Hypocritical behavior also makes for good villain traits, so we'll give him credit for that as well. Let's see. This shot. Okay. So we're going to end off on this. We've seen this shot since the very first trailers, and we're genuinely wondering what is going on. So, in the new trailer, we finally get the context to this, and we finally get to see what happens immediately after. What happens is Megatron picks up Dot, our human mother police officer type, and just kind of hangs out with her. She calls him Megs. They have like a battle cry together. Terror in the skies, honor in the streets. Like, what? So, so remember that this Megatron is designed by Nick Roche, who's doing a lot of the design work on this series. So it's no surprise that some IDW 1.0 leaked in. Megatron in the show starts as an anti-hero. He's a good guy. That is why his sigil matches Elita 1 and Optimus's sigil so much, because it's the ghost emblem. So supposedly his penance for the war is like now he has to kind of like police things as part of Ghost. So it's a very different Megatron. Okay? It's a Megatron that made a friend with a human. I am sure many will see this as blasphemous. I am seeing it as a change to a 40-year-old dynamic that is very overdue. Please, I beg you, of all things, Transformers, do something different. That's different. And if you hate the decision, if you hate Good Guy Megatron, too bad. Join me for the ride, and just don't trash or destroy the series before you've even seen it. Give it a chance. Let it tell its story. And honestly, I'm not even sure I completely buy this. This isn't just Megatron playing the long game here. I wouldn't be surprised if he turns out to be a big villain, by like season 3 at the latest. All right, so more scenes here. Like, here we go. Optimus and Megatron just kind of together and not shooting each other. That's another weird image that I thought was worth pointing out. This last screenshot is something I literally thought I would never see. Honestly thought I would never see this. Megatron and Soundwave coming to blows. Soundwave is one of those that is not ready or willing to put down the war, even though Megatron is, commanded the end of it, has joined the good guys. We kind of saw them on opposing sides in IDW 1.0 as well when Soundwave learned that Megatron became an Autobot, but eventually that Soundwave came around, and kind of became a good guy in his own direction. But something like this, I never thought I would see. There are some things in Transformers that have always been concrete, Starscream is, in one way or another, a traitor. Bumblebee is, in one way or another, the young upstart. Soundwave is always supposed to be the most loyal Decepticon to Megatron. Short of Lugnut, the most loyal Decepticon. To see this, to see a Soundwave that is willing to actually come to blows with Megatron is kind of huge. And this alone has me very interested in the dynamic that is going on here between Autobot, Decepticon, Ghost, and whatever this Megatron is doing. This is the kind of thing that makes me go, okay, let's try Megatron as a good guy, as an anti-hero. Let's just see how it plays out. Because things like this are intriguing. And I want to be intrigued by Transformers again. This is doing it. So that's what I got. That's a lot of the info that came out of San Diego Comic-Con. Like I said, or New York Comic-Con, I apologize. It's a lot. And like I said, I didn't even get into like what happened in the episode they showed. Because there's a lot more going on here. And a lot of like suspicious stuff going on that I haven't touched on. I'll let you discover it when episode 1 debuts. But that is what I got for you today. Thank you for watching. Once again, Earthspark is fascinating me. And I'm very eager to see more. So, thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.